And I'm live. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in again. This post is about something that's I've racked my brains over literally for 30 or 40 years and finally came to a conclusion about, owing to the results and the circumstances following the Euro 2020 football competition, which sadly Italy won on penalties. So because I'm putting this on my YouTube channel, kindly hit the subscribe button and the little bell, which gives you notifications when I post. Both will support me and help me to put out further posts. But this post is really aimed at Middle England with a message which I think everybody else knows, but we all pretend we don't want to talk about. The fact is that racism doesn't embarrass the middle opinion forming part of England at all. I now believe that they gain something from being racist because it enables them to retain control of what they perceive as a nation that may be slipping out of their grasp. So how did this all come to pass? Of course, the game wound up in penalties. Historically, England has not, to the best of my knowledge, won a penalty shootout in literally kind of an archaeological age. It's not something England is known for being good at. So yesterday, when it went into extra time and then to the penalty shootout, and not one, not two, but three of England's players fluffed their penalties. It was heartbreak, but heartbreak that we've encountered before, encountered by the manager himself, Gareth Southgate, who went out on just another penalty shootout like this. However, this penalty shootout was different. It was missed by three people of Afro-Caribbean origin. And the racism that exploded on social media after the fact is more than I have seen in any of my lifetime, and I'm north of 50 years here in the United Kingdom. It was shame and sick making, all rolled into one. The one that stuck in my mind was the thing on Snapchat, which laid out a tariff of from 5 points awarded to 500 points awarded, the 5 points being for spitting at a person that looks like me, the 500 points being for running over a person that looks like me, and in between a whole load of other things, including actually lynching a person of African origin. How can this be? Curious thing is that I was so heartened for these boys, in the white shirts yesterday, that throughout this competition, they started playing what I call Olay football, what Sir Alex Ferguson used to call carousel football. I remember once against Denmark counting a string of 28 passes between England players, which only came to a halt when Sancho was fouled by a Danish player. Now, that kind of ball play, that kind of ball control and so on, which had so eluded us in the English game, is here. This team have taken English football to the next level, and they're incredibly young. So, full marks to Gareth Southgate. He is definitely on the right trajectory. And for getting to a final of a European competition, that in and of itself deserves the kind of plaudits that he certainly didn't get yesterday. And as for the racist abuse of the poor young boys who had to withstand the pressure of a penalty shootout, first of all, let me just explain something. You don't know the pressure these Black British players play under. When when it's at the club level, for some reason, they're kind of absorbed into the club culture. But when it comes to the national level, English racism is particularly virulent and nasty and aggressive. So whenever a black player pulls on an English shirt, you've got to know that he's under 10 times the pressure that anybody else is wearing that shirt. Under those circumstances, to have the courage to respond to your manager's call to take a penalty, for me, takes superhuman courage. And for people to be derided for not scoring under those circumstances, especially in the way of the kind of abuse that's taken place, that actually left, I would say that it's left most black people feeling quite sick, quite numb, all of today, and the feeling of that won't be forgotten soon. What's curious is that people will go to work, people will have been at work today, and nobody will want to talk about this if there are black folk in the staff. And that also explains, in my opinion, why racism remains in the United Kingdom. The moment you bring it up, especially those in the middle classes, they will run under a rock as fast as you can imagine. Well, if you're not prepared to grasp the nettle, don't be surprised that the nettle lingers, indeed proliferates over the years. So, why are people so embarrassed about confronting this issue with racism? Well, it's the psychology of that is obviously quite simple. If you do something remarkably well, you want to crow about it till the cows come home. If you do something which is either indefensible or shameful, you want to pretend that thing doesn't exist. So on that level, most mentally healthy people will want to deny, belittle, downplay, minimize, and hide their malfeasance. So that's the first level. However, whereas previously I thought that this was all that was going on, now I don't think that that is all that's going on, because I'm looking at the behaviors of people repeatedly over and over and over again. You know, you can make statements of apology, you can make statements of regret, you can make statements of distance, so on and so forth, so many times. After a while, they become completely empty, because we all know that it's only a matter of time before you're going to have to come out and make those statements again. And at that point, you start to wonder what really is going on here. And it makes me feel as if, particularly for those in the middle part of England, that as long as somebody is beasting people of African origin here in the United Kingdom, as long as somebody is treating them as less than, they don't have to do it. All they have to do is to pretend either they're not seeing it, or that it's not as bad as it looks. Simple. The thing continues, and those people who are being thus beasted are maintained in a subservient, supine, obviously some kind of second-class status. But to imagine that it's unconscious or somehow unwitting or somehow unplanned is the most appalling lie you can imagine. And when people start to lie, you have a problem, because lying is part of psychopathology. When people are able to do A and call it B without a blink, then you have people who genuinely lack empathy for the subject about which we're talking, then you actually know you're in fairly deep trouble. So the idea that you can get some people to be racist, to be aggressive, to be nasty towards sectors of your society, the idea that you know this is going on, the idea that you are unable to confront it, look the people in the eye and address the issue, means that this is more than embarrassment, means that this is a plan. And that's why I've headed my post, Racism Doesn't Embarrass Middle England. Middle England likes it because it provides some of Middle England's perks. And if this is true, again, you can never expect a truthful answer on this question because there are two behaviors that follow the moment you mention the R word. One is denial. So, what? Really? Is that really? Can that be happening? Are you sure? Are you serious? As if they just landed from planet Zog. And the second is the ability to completely, unblinkingly pretend it never happened. Think about that. So going forward, there is but one solution. If the mountain won't go, if the mountain won't go to Muhammad, Muhammad has to go to the mountain, or whichever the expression goes. It's very important for this to go away, because I'm quite sure that unless we cross this particular Rubicon, in 50 years' time, my son will be sitting here and saying, I wonder what's going on. Is society embarrassed, or is society willful in its racism? Let's cut to the chase. Let's speak the truth now. Society is willfully racist because society gets some kind of perk from keeping some people at the bottom of the heap. And if that continues, who loses? The whole of society actually loses. It's an act of societal self-harm. So, finally, no more lies, no more denial, no more minimization. And if you see a problem in the room, if you see the elephant in the corner of the room, I think it behooves you to call it what it is and address its needs. Thank you very much.